Scorpio, do you know how the air stills over a deep, dark lake in the moment before the first flash of lightning? The water's surface is like black glass, not a single ripple. Yet you, a child of your element, feel on your skin how ancient currents are already awakening in the impenetrable depths, preparing to surge upward. Such a cosmic lull has now enveloped your life. The world around you continues its race, but your inner compass, which never lies, trembles and points to a single spot in the future. You find yourself staring into the void, listening to the silence, and realizing it hums with tension. This isn't anxiety, no. It's a premonition of a grand event the universe has prepared just for you, like a gift for the most anticipated guest. Destiny has long woven this pattern, bringing together threads of past and future. And now, before making the final decisive stitch, it has paused. So you can prepare. So you can listen. This message echoing for you now is not just words cast to the wind. It's a key forged in starlight, a key to a door that is about to appear on your path. And beyond it lies the resolution of a story you thought long over, and the justice you had despaired of ever receiving. And this call is already sounding, still a whisper, in the most mundane things. You notice the same time stopped on clocks, how the same digital combination insistently repeats in receipts and license plates. At night, you dream strange, vivid dreams, old houses you've never been to, or faces of people you long erased from memory. By day, amidst the street noise, you suddenly catch a snippet of a stranger's conversation, a phrase that hits home, answering your unspoken question. This is not your imagination, Scorpio. This is the celestial conductor beginning to place the notes of a coming symphony on your path. The universe is scattering these breadcrumbs for you, so your intuition, your most faithful instrument, can tune into the right frequency. Each such sign is a drop that wears away the stone of your disbelief, preparing your consciousness for what seems impossible. It's preparing you for an encounter, for the moment when the material world converges with the world of signs, and you will unhesitatingly recognize the one who brings you recompense and forgiveness. And then, in the midst of an ordinary day, one of these breadcrumbs falls not on the path, but directly into your soul, and a quiet yet distinct click sounds, as if a key turned in a long-rusted lock within you. It's not a thought, but a flash of icy fire, a sudden deafening realization. Enough. Enough of carrying this splinter, this old pain of betrayal, which you've learned to ignore, like a scar you've grown accustomed to. You suddenly remember everything with such clarity, as if it were yesterday. That very deal, that very project, that very hope that was taken from you, leaving you empty-handed and with bitter ashes in your mouth. You remember the face, the promises, and the moment you realized you'd been fooled. For years, you told yourself you'd let go, that you'd grown stronger, that it was a lesson. But now, in this humming silence, you realize you haven't let go. You merely locked this injustice in the deepest chamber of your soul, and all this time, it has been silently poisoning you from within, preventing you from breathing fully, from truly trusting. And in that moment, you realize you are no longer willing to pay for someone else's tab. An unknown force within you straightens to its full height and declares, "I await restitution, and I will receive it." But no sooner does this vow escape your lips than your main adversary rises from the darkest depths of your being. And this foe is not that person from the past. It is your own guardian, nurtured over years, your shadow self, born on that very day of betrayal. It has grown into you, learned to speak with your voice, and all this time convinced you that this pain is your strength. It whispers to you even now, "Stop. Why stir up the past? You'll only get hurt again." This scar is your armor. It reminds you to trust no one. And you want to tear it off and be defenseless? This inner jailer of your memory will cling to the familiar order of things until the very end. It will argue that the cold calm of the scorched earth you stand upon is far safer than the hope of a new harvest. It will call your pursuit of justice a weakness, and the ability to live with a shard in your heart, true valor. And now, Scorpio, the main battle is not with someone who comes from without, but with the one who stands guard over your own inner prison. Ask yourself, whose side will you choose when the door finally opens? The side of the guardian or the side of freedom? And you make this choice without a single word. It happens not in your mind, but in the very core of your being, like the shifting of Earth's poles, quietly yet irreversibly. Your shadow guardian doesn't engage in battle, it simply retreats into the twilight, because before it, there is no longer a prisoner. Before it stands the alchemist of your own soul, returned to claim their right. You suddenly remember who you truly are. You are one born of the element of transformation, one who walks the edge and gazes into the abyss without fear, knowing that at its bottom lies not death, but truth. And you realize that this old wound was not your weakness. It was a crucible in which your will was forged into an unbreakable alloy, and your intuition sharpened to the edge of an obsidian blade. And now you are ready to wield it. You straighten your shoulders, and the years of burden from someone else's guilt and your own silence fall away like invisible dust. You no longer await mercy from fate. You send a calm, clear, and unwavering signal to the outside world. Not a plea, but a demand. And in that very moment, somewhere on the other end of an invisible thread, someone shudders, not knowing why. The mechanism of karmic justice has been set in motion by your will. The wheel has turned, and this turning will manifest not as a single flash of lightning, but as 3 successive waves, each washing over one of the shores of your life. The first wave will touch the shore of abundance. Here, you will face a test of acceptance. When the material debt is repaid, will you be able to accept it not as a handout or a trophy won in battle, but as a calm restoration of universal balance? Will you be able to look at these resources and see in them not compensation for suffering, but fuel for your future path? Many break precisely here, starting to revel in triumph or, conversely, poisoning what they receive with the bitterness of the past. Your task is to accept it with dignity and stillness, as a river accepts a tributary. The second wave will strike the shore of the heart. Here, you will hear the words you've been waiting for. But the test will not be in hearing them, but in how you react to them. Will you show mercy, not for the sake of another, but for your own sake, to finally remove that poisonous thorn? Or will you allow your ego to demand further humiliation for the debtor? True strength, Scorpio, is not in the ability to crush, but in the wisdom to let go. And finally, the third most powerful wave will cover the shore of destiny. This is the ultimate test. For the universe is not repaying your debt, so you can forever count coins and reread an apology letter. It is clearing your path forward. And it will ask, what will you do with your freedom now that the chains are removed? And this is how the first act will begin. Remember this day, September 14th. It will arrive not with thunder and lightning, but woven into the fabric of an ordinary week. And the person you may no longer have been expecting will find you. You will recognize him not by a face changed by time, but by a scar on his hand. The mark of that very old agreement, sealed with a lie. He will place a suitcase before you, and in that moment, your world will narrow to this object, to its weight, to the sound of its latches. It's not just money, Scorpio. It is the materialized energy of your time, your hopes, your sleepless nights, which were once stolen from you. And here awaits your first test. For a moment, an icy fire of triumph will flare within you. You will want to say something cutting, to look down, to savor his moment of humiliation. But precisely here, you must summon all your profound strength. Be not a turbulent current, but a dark, calm lake that receives a river without a single ripple. Look him in the eyes, not with hatred, but with a definitive closure. Your task is to silently take what is rightfully yours and internally close this chapter, not by rereading the last page, but simply by placing it on the shelf. This act of acceptance is not forgiveness, but primarily self-liberation. But he won't leave immediately. Closing the latches on the empty suitcase, he will look up at you, and precisely at that moment, the second act, the test of the heart, will begin. He will begin to speak, and his words will be like a clumsy attempt to patch a hole in a long-sunk ship. Apologies, justifications, stories of his own difficulties, and here lies a trap, more subtle than the desire for revenge. He will subconsciously await an emotional response from you, anger, tears, schadenfreude. anything that proves to him he can still control your inner currents. Your task is to become a stone shore. Listen, but do not internalize. Let his words wash over you and flow away without entering your harbor. Do not ask questions whose answers you have long found yourself. Do not accept explanations that would only devalue your journey. A short, calm nod and a single phrase, "I have heard you." That is all you owe him. This is not coldness, Scorpio. It is the highest form of soul diplomacy. You set a boundary, acknowledging another's right to speak, but reserving your right not to let those words into your world. And as soon as that door closes, others will begin to knock on your life's door. News of justice restored will spread like ripples on water. Witnesses to your past downfall, who were silent then, will now appear, wanting to share in your triumph, demanding details. Your story is not a marketplace for others' curiosity. Your newfound equilibrium is too fragile a jewel to allow others to weigh it in their hands. True victory is not when everyone around you acknowledges your rightness, but when you yourself no longer need anyone's recognition. And once the door closes behind the last of them and silence falls upon the house, the third, main act will begin. This is not the silence of peace, but of a vacuum. The place where pain resided for many years is now empty, and the spectre of emptiness will prove more terrifying than any enemy. The temptation to fill it with the echoes of the old battle will be almost irresistible. Replaying the scene of retribution over and over, recounting the story of your resilience, mentally trying on the victor's crown. This is the most insidious trap on your path, Scorpio, to turn your freedom into a museum of old war. But the universe, having cleared this space for you, looks at you and asks a single question. I have returned to you not money and not apologies. I have returned the years you spent waiting. What will you do with them? This is your final exam. Do not look back. Do not build a monument to your victory on the ashes of the past. Take this returned energy, this pure fuel, and invest it in a dream completely unrelated to your past. Into that endeavor you postponed, that journey you hesitated to take, that version of yourself you feared becoming. True rebirth is not recovering what was stolen, but creating what could never be taken from you. And in this moment of bewilderment, as you stand amidst the cleared field of your life, not knowing where to take the first step, the universe will send you a guide. It will not be an angel with a flaming sword, but a quiet old man in a dusty bookstore, where you will wander in by chance, seeking refuge from the clamor of your own thoughts. He will not ask your name. He will merely look at you over his spectacles, as if seeing not your face, but a map of the roads you have traveled. Silently, he will hand you a small book in a worn leather binding, with not a single word on its cover. You have been the chronicler of your past for too long, he will say so softly that it will seem as if the voice resonated within your own head. It is time to become the author of your future. And when you open this book, you will see that all its pages are blank. This is your key, Scorpio. Not advice, not a prophecy, but a clean slate. The greatest gift and the greatest responsibility. The universe is not giving you a new map. It is handing you a compass and a pen, saying, draw it yourself. Your true destiny begins not with revenge and not with the repayment of debts, but with the first line you dare to write on that pristine blank page. And you sit before this emptiness, the pen in your hand feeling heavier than any sword. It begins to seem that the worst is behind you. The enemy is vanquished, treasures return to your coffers, the story has found its end. A deceptive warmth spreads within, the sweet poison of completion, whispering, rest, you've earned it, you've won. And herein lies the greatest danger of all you've encountered on your path. For the victory you achieved is not the mountain's summit, it is merely a plateau, offering a view of the true peak, shrouded in clouds. Fighting the ghost of the past was easier. It had a face, a name, and a recognizable tactic. You knew what to expect and what you were fighting for. Your new adversary is boundless freedom, which has no map, no enemy, except your own indecision. Understand, everything that happened before this day was not your main battle. It was merely an initiation fee. The payment for the right to stand here, now, before a blank page, and begin the truly difficult work, the recreation of yourself. And you understand, to write the first line, you must burn the entire old library. Not just the chapter on betrayal, but the entire volume titled, I Am the One Who Was Wronged. Burn the tale of your resilience, the epic of your victory, even the sonnets of your pain. Because as long as this archive exists, any new story will merely be its continuation. And you make a decision, not in your mind, but with your entire being. You mentally gather all these pages, resentments, memories, dialogues, proofs of your righteousness, and bring the invisible fire of your will to them. It is at this moment that the cosmic key, which until now had only been turning in the lock, enters its peak phase. The universe was not waiting for money to be repaid. It was waiting for this sacred auto-da-fe. This is your true leap into the abyss, Scorpio. Not backward, into the past, to seek revenge, but forward, into the unknown, to be born. The bridges you are burning now do not lead to your enemy. They lead to the you of yesterday. And from this moment, there is no turning back. You stand on the ashes of your past, and before you is not just a blank page, but an entire new world, awaiting its demiurge. But this new world has its first merciless law. The ashes you stand upon will become poison to those accustomed to warming themselves by the fire of your pain. Your healing will become their personal loss. You will see it in the eyes of those closest to you, sympathetic friends for whom your drama was the meaning of their own significance, relatives who built an entire system of relationships around your scar. They won't say it aloud, but your newfound wholeness will disrupt their familiar world. They will unconsciously try to pull you back into the familiar narrative, to throw logs onto a long-extinguished fire, to remind you what you've been through. And the steepest ascent will begin precisely here, at the moment when you must choose between their comfort and your truth. The path upward is always a solitary one, because old companions remain at the foot, mourning not you, but the role you played for them. This is your first sacrifice on the altar of your new self, a warm circle of sympathizers in exchange for the cold air of the peaks, where you can finally breathe freely. And you take that first breath at the summit, and gasp. The cold air burns your lungs not with intoxicating freedom, but with the piercing terror of absolute solitude. And in this echoing silence, which you chose yourself, your inner guardian returns. But no longer as a quiet admonisher, but as the laughing demon of your own doubt, and its voice is now your own. You traded a warm cage for an icy desert. It thunders inside your skull. Pain at least had a form. You could hate it, fight it. But what will you fight here, in this boundless void? Yourself. Your indomitable will, capable of burning worlds just a moment ago, suddenly becomes as fragile as an autumn leaf. And the most terrifying thought, like a poisonous sting, pierces your heart. What if all this is the greatest self-deception? What if there's no resolution? What if the man with the scar is just a ghost of the past, and you are left alone, with an imagined victory and a very real emptiness? This is the bottom of your abyss, Scorpio. Not the betrayal of another, but doubt in your own right to rebirth. And it is by pushing off this very bottom that you are destined to make your greatest ascent. And you do not ascend. You pause. Do not fight it, Scorpio. Do not try to ignite an extinguished fire within by sheer willpower. In this moment, your great strength lies not in movement, but in its complete absence. Imagine you are a stone, cast into the darkest lake. You have reached the bottom. There is no light here, no sounds, only cold silt and the weight of the entire column of water above you. And this weight is the weight of your newfound freedom. Every drop of water above you is an unanswered question. Was it worth it? What now? Who am I without my war? Allow these questions to be. Allow this cold to penetrate you. Allow this darkness to become your eyes. Do not try to surface. Do not seek support. What you need now is not salvation, but complete immersion. It is here, at absolute zero, where the old self finally dies and the new one is not yet born, that the great alchemy occurs. The universe holds its breath, waiting not for your surge upward, but for your complete resounding consent to be nothing, so that from this nothing everything can be born. And in this absolute silence, at the very bottom, your fingers suddenly recall a sensation. Not your mind, but your skin. The feel of the worn leather binding, the nameless book given by the old man. And an insight comes, quiet and clear, like a ray of light piercing through the water's depth. You realize you misunderstood his message. You thought the blank page was an invitation to immediately write a grand new novel about yourself, to map out a 100-year plan. But now, from the depths, you see the truth. It is an invitation to write just one word, the first, but not what is expected of you, and not what will be a continuation of the old story, but one that will be born from this very silence. Your new strategy is not to build a bridge across the chasm. Your strategy is to find a single stone, firm enough to step on and take the next step. And this first stone, this first line, will not be an action, but a decision. A decision about which emotion you will choose when it all ends. Not the one the echo of the past will impose on you, triumph, relief, schadenfreude, but a new one. One that you yourself will create in this empty space. Perhaps it will be quiet curiosity, perhaps deep serenity. The universe has not returned a debt to you, Scorpio. It has returned your right to the first word in your new story, and now you know how to write it. And so you lower your metaphysical pen onto the pristine page, ready to inscribe that first word, serenity. But the moment the pen's tip is about to touch the paper, your hand freezes in mid-air, paralyzed by a force far more ancient than fear or pain. It is not a demon from without. It is your own most loyal general, the one who led you through all battles, suddenly stepping from the shadows and placing an icy palm on your wrist. He doesn't whisper, he thunders within you with the voice of your triumph. Serenity? You want to trade the stormy ocean that you are for a pathetic swamp? Have you forgotten who you are? You are a surgeon, not a gardener. Your strength lies in the scalpel with which you incise the world's festering sores, not in a watering can for faceless flowers. This pain, this war, they made you great. And who will you be in the silence? Just another forgotten scar on the body of eternity. He tempts you not with weakness, but with your own strength. He offers you to write a different word, not serenity, but control, not curiosity, but power. He offers you to build upon these ashes not a new home, but an impregnable fortress, even taller and more unassailable than before. And this, Scorpio, is your final and most terrifying temptation, to abandon rebirth for an eternal, yet so familiar and intoxicating war with yourself. And you look at this icy palm on your wrist, feeling the familiar cold of control, and instead of pulling away, you do the unthinkable. You cover it with your other free hand. You don't fight, you give thanks. You mentally tell your inner general, thank you. You led me through hell and kept me from burning. But the war is over. Your service is honorably discharged. And he doesn't argue. He doesn't vanish in clouds of smoke. He simply melts, like an ice statue in the rays of the first spring sun, because his mission is fulfilled, and your hand becomes free. The pen descends onto the pristine page, but you write neither serenity nor power. The tip of the pen simply places a period. One, final, a period at the end of the endless book of war. And in that moment, the walls of your inner fortress crumble. Not with a crash, but quietly, like sand sifting in ancient hourglasses. All the energy that went into defense, into maintaining walls, into eternal vigilance, all of it is released and returns to you, its rightful owner. This is not a surge of strength, Scorpio. This is a return to your whole self. You are no longer a surgeon or a gardener, a warrior or a victim. You are a clear field after a warm rain, ready to receive any seed. And in this field, not a seed, but a new sense sprouts. A sixth sense, much talked about, but which until this moment you had confused with anxious intuition. Now it is something different. It is the gift of clear vision. You suddenly begin to see the invisible threads connecting causes and effects. You look at the world and it appears before you not as a chaotic jumble of events, but as a flawless clockwork mechanism where every gear moves at its precisely appointed moment. And the coming repayment of the debt ceases to be an act of vengeance or a miracle for you. You see it as clearly and simply as a physicist sees the trajectory of a thrown stone. You understand that the man with the scar on his hand is not an enemy and not a debtor. He is merely a mailman, delivering a package you sent to yourself the moment you placed that period. And here it is. The main gift, Scorpio. Not the money in the suitcase and not the words of apology, but the acquired ability to see this universal law in action. Serenity, born not from forgiveness, but from the deepest understanding. The world neither punishes nor rewards. It simply reflects. And now you see your reflection in it, pure, clear, and whole. And therefore, September 14th is no longer a point in a hazy future, but simply a mark on your new map, clear and inevitable. You do not await this day with fear or anticipation. You simply know it will arrive, just as you know that dawn follows sunset. And when the door opens and the past stands before you with a suitcase in hand, you will not utter a word. But within you, like a bell in an empty temple, a single formula will sound, a mantra solidifying your new essence. I am the law for my world. I am balance. All that is mine is with me. And you will not need to look into the suitcase or listen to the words of apology. You will simply accept them as a belated echo of a long-past storm. This moment is not an end. It is your reset. The account is closed, the ledger burned, and before you now is not a blank page to be filled. Before you is the entire universe asking you just one question, but no longer with the voice of pain, but with the whisper of stars. Where to now, Creator?